What is it about taking responsibility for something that feels so damning? Like, actually taking responsibility for our actions means that we're somehow irresponsible or wrong. I mean, think about it. Think about the last time that somebody did something to you and it made you feel mad or slighted, or like they did it with a malicious intent. How often in scenarios like that do you take a step back and think to yourself, what have I done on the opposite side of this situation to take responsibility for this, to follow up, to confirm that that was actually that person's intent? It was a fact. They wanted to hurt me. They wanted to be mean to me. They wanted to do something that was going to make me feel bad. So when I think about that in my life, how many times that somebody has done something to hurt me or that made me feel bad or feeling like I needed to retaliate in some way, I don't know how many times I have actually taken a step back to think, how am I responsible to this situation? Look, I'm not saying that it makes you a bad person if you've done this, if you've retaliated, if you've responded from anger. I mean, I'm pretty spicy myself. I know that when somebody comes for me, my initial response is, I'm not taking no shit. But when I have a moment to calm down and really think about it, 9 times out of 10 in the situation where somebody hurts me and I respond from hurt and I hurt them, I know that I feel bad. I feel bad for hurting them, or even thinking that there was a possibility that I could have hurt them. Those feelings come from a willingness, a desire to want to take responsibility for my part in the situation. And during our struggle with infertility, this really became a reoccurring theme for me, wanting to retaliate against anyone or anything that said something I didn't like, asked me a question I didn't like, I felt was not being mindful of my struggle, and maybe was not taking into consideration how what they were saying or doing to me could make me feel. So looking back on that, that was just me being mad. That was me being angry. That was me believing it was factual that they were trying to be malicious to me or to hurt me or being selfish. And I believe that that was factual because I was not willing to take responsibility for my part of that story, for how I was ingesting it, how I was receiving it, and making it all about me. And the unglamorous truth is that's because I was choosing to be a victim. What does this mean for me? What does this mean for responsibility? It means that I was not taking any. I was taking responsibility for my struggle. I was taking responsibility for my pain, my hurt, my sadness, and how I was receiving everything in my struggle, but I was not taking responsibility for the misinterpretation. I was not taking responsibility for my follow-up, right? So if somebody said something to me that I didn't like, I immediately was like, boom, fact. This person's trying to hurt me. This person doesn't care how I feel. And there was no follow-up. There was no me taking responsibility and shining or reflecting back to them how that made me feel. Hey, you said this. Was that your intention? Hey, you did this. Was that your intention? Hey, this happened and I interpreted it like that. Was that real? Had I done those things, that would have been me taking responsibility, but I didn't. I didn't do them. Responsibility doesn't have to be about you being wrong. It doesn't have to be about the other person being wrong. It has to do with doing business flat, as I like to call it. It has to do with I'm taking responsibility and ownership of how I feel in this situation instead of letting this little story that is influenced by my feelings, what has happened to me, take over and run the show. Instead of letting a relationship potentially sour, instead of making it about making somebody else feel bad. It's simply about doing business flat and taking responsibility for your part in it. I don't know where the idea came from that if by taking responsibility, it means you're somehow in the wrong. I don't know where the idea came from that it means you're a bad person or you're weak or you're sad, lonely, depressed, unlovable, and somehow defective. But what I do know is for me, By learning how to take responsibility, and it's a daily thing. I have to constantly check myself, reflect to myself, here's how you feel. Is anything influencing that? Is there any story around that for you? Is there any reason why you might be all in your feelings and you're letting that run the show versus doing business flat? By learning to take responsibility, it has taught me how to get closer to myself, how to get closer to other people, and simply put, it is the express train to happiness, man. When you take out all the misinterpretation and you open communication, it makes us more capable of understanding, compassion, love, and connection. So there's nothing wrong with taking responsibility. Like I say to my husband, I took my responsibility in reminding you to get the garbage bags. You did not take the responsibility in executing. This is just a sister trying to hook you. This is just people helping people. Loving connection. It doesn't mean he's bad or wrong because he forgot the garbage bags. And it doesn't have to be any different. Versus you telling somebody, hey, I interpreted you saying something as this and it hurt my feelings. Think of it as garbage bags. Do business flat and say, this is how I felt. Is it what you meant? And take responsibility for your part in it. And who knows? It could be as simple as saying, forgot the garbage bags. My bad. I'll get them tomorrow. I'm sorry I told you I didn't like purple nail polish. Didn't realize you had purple nail polish on that day. My bad. Looks totally awesome on you. No problem. Do business flat. Because on the other side of this, on the other side of it, and all the things that you think could be malicious about somebody else, trying to be distasteful or hurtful and not thinking about your feelings, is truth.